Have you ever looked up and noticed a crow perched alone on a power line or gliding silently through the sky? It might seem ordinary at first glance, a dark bird with a sharp gaze and an eerie core. But what if I told you that this creature carries within it a secret that has astonished even modern scientists? A mystery that science is just beginning to understand, yet one that was already revealed in the Qur'an more than 14 centuries ago. This is not just a story about a bird, it's a journey through the hidden wisdom woven into the fabric of creation, a glimpse into how divine knowledge often resides in the most overlooked of beings. Crows have always fascinated humans. In many cultures they were seen as omens or messengers, often associated with mystery or death. But today, science is unveiling something deeper, something profound and startling. Recent research has shown that crows are not only intelligent creatures, but that they also engage in behavior that strongly resembles human emotions and social understanding. Scientists observing them in the wild have noted acts of mourning, tool use, long-term memory, social bonding, and even acts of what can only be described as gratitude or compassion. How could such complex behavior exist in an animal we once dismissed as just another scavenger? And yet, the Qur'an already spoke of the crow, giving it a role in one of the most foundational human stories. While modern science looks through the lens of observation and experimentation, revelation has long ago pointed to truths that science is only now catching up with. This isn't to pit science against religion, but to marvel at how they can, at times, walk hand in hand. The crow is a perfect example, an animal that, through divine narrative and scientific study alike, stands as a witness to the intricacies of life, death, and purpose. Imagine, for a moment, a group of crows gathered in silence. One of their own has died. In most of the animal kingdom, death is either ignored, hidden, or simply passed over. But with crows, something else happens. Something deeply unsettling and deeply human. A special call goes out. A loud, piercing signal is made by a single crow, often a family member of the deceased. And suddenly, crows begin to arrive from nearby trees and rooftops, circling the area and perching quietly nearby. Observers have described the scene as strangely reverent. These birds, known for their loud and often disruptive calls, go quiet. They do not eat. They do not play. They simply gather and watch. Scientists have coined the term crow funerals to describe this behavior. Of course, they don't mean funerals in the religious sense, but the resemblance is uncanny. Sometimes the birds will even bring twigs, grass, or small objects, placing them near the body of the deceased. They sit in stillness, they look, they wait, and after some time, they disperse one by one, returning to their routines. But something has changed. Their mood, their energy, even their vocalizations shift for some time after these gatherings. What are we witnessing here? Is this mourning? Is this the recognition of death? Or is it something else, an expression of social unity, a way to warn others of danger, or a ritualized behavior passed down through generations? Whatever it is, it draws a clear line between instinct and understanding. And perhaps more astonishing than the behavior itself is the reaction it evokes in us. We recognize it. We see something familiar in their silence, in their stillness. It reminds us of ourselves. In one documented case, a group of researchers placed a dead crow on the ground in a public park and observed how other crows responded. The living birds immediately paused their activity, circled the area, and remained at a distance, cawing loudly at first, then growing silent. Some refused to eat even when food was available. Others perched on nearby branches and stayed for hours, watching. This wasn't a passing reaction. It was focused, prolonged, and deliberate. And when the body was removed, the behavior stopped, but not without leaving a lasting impression on the birds and the people watching. This behavior raises uncomfortable questions. If crows recognize the death of one of their own, do they also recognize the meaning of life? If they respond with what seems like grief, does that imply they feel loss? Could a creature with feathers and wings, a creature we often chase away from garbage bins, be capable of something as profound as mourning? And if they can mourn, what else do they know? To find the origin of this mystery, we return to the beginning of human history, a moment recorded not in science journals but in the Qur'an. The first murder, the first moment a human life was taken by another. The story of Qabil and Habil, Cain and Abel, the children of Prophet Adam, peace be upon him. In a fit of jealousy and rage, Cain struck down his brother, becoming the first human to commit murder. But after the act was done, he was lost. His hands were stained, but it was his heart that trembled. He didn't know what to do. There were no traditions, no graves, no funeral rites. Death to him was a new and terrifying thing. What followed is one of the most profound verses in the Qur'an. Allah, in His infinite mercy and wisdom, sent a crow, not a majestic angel from the skies, not a voice from the heavens, but a humble crow. This bird began to scratch the earth with its claws and beak, demonstrating how to cover a lifeless body with soil. The murderer watched. He saw, and then he understood. The verse reads, "Then Allah sent a crow digging in the ground to show him how to bury the corpse of his brother. Cain cried out, 'Woe to me! Am I not even able to be like this crow and bury the body of my brother?' Then he was filled with regret." Surah Al-Ma'idah. This was not just a lesson in burial. It was a moment of awakening, a moment when a man confronted his own ignorance through the actions of a bird, a moment where Allah used one of His simplest creatures to teach humanity a profound truth about death, dignity, and responsibility. Imagine the power of that moment, a human, created from clay, taught by a bird how to honor the dead. What does that say about the wisdom hidden in creation? The crow became, in that moment, more than just a bird. It became a symbol, a messenger, a guide, and its role did not end there. The Qur'an preserved this moment, not just as a story, but as a sign, a reminder that guidance can come in unexpected forms, that even in the creatures we overlook, there may be lessons waiting for us. And as science begins to uncover the intelligence and social behavior of crows, we are reminded that Allah's wisdom is vast and often hidden in plain sight. Today, we marvel at how crows use tools, how they solve puzzles, how they remember faces. But long before any of these discoveries were made, the Qur'an pointed to the crow as a teacher, not of survival, but of moral responsibility, not of instinct, but of human conscience. It's as if this single bird stands at the intersection of revelation and research, one claw in sacred knowledge, the other in scientific curiosity. Even in the modern world, the crow continues to surprise us. Researchers have placed masks on their faces while handling deceased crows, and the birds remembered those masked faces, sometimes for years. They reacted with alarm and aggression every time they saw the same masks again, showing a memory and level of recognition once believed impossible for birds. In urban areas, crows have learned to recognize the routines of humans. They know which people feed them and which people pose a threat. They adapt, they learn, they remember. In one case, a woman passed near a crow's nest without any harmful intent. Yet the bird perceived her as a threat and swooped down aggressively. For years afterward, the crow continued to react to her presence, even calling other crows to join in. That might sound frightening, but it's also a powerful testament to their memory, their loyalty, and their intelligence. These are not creatures of random action. They are deliberate, observant, and deeply attuned to their surroundings. What are we to make of all this? A bird capable of mourning, a creature chosen by Allah to demonstrate burial, an animal with a memory so sharp it can recognize human faces for years. It challenges our assumptions about intelligence, about emotion, and about the very boundaries we place between ourselves and other beings. The crow reminds us that we are not the only ones who observe, who feel, who remember. While many animals coexist with humans in urban spaces, very few have built the kind of relationship crows have with people. These birds do not merely adapt to our presence. They learn from us, interact with us, and in some cases form what seem to be emotional bonds. In a world where the line between humans and animals often feels sharply drawn, crows quietly blur that boundary. One of the most remarkable aspects of crow behavior is their capacity to give gifts. Yes, gifts, small tokens of recognition or gratitude offered not to their own kind, but to humans. One heartwarming story comes from a man who rescued a crow from a cat attack. He found the bird injured, vulnerable, and frightened. Rather than ignoring it or shooing it away, he gently took it in, tended to its wounds, and eventually released it back into the wild. Most would expect that to be the end of the story, but not with this crow. After being set free, the bird returned again and again. It began to visit the man's small shop daily, sometimes perching nearby, sometimes just observing from a distance. It didn't ask for food, nor did it show fear. Instead, it displayed a kind of silent loyalty, as if remembering the one who had once saved its life. This wasn't a one-off story. In another city, a young girl, only 8 years old, began feeding crows in her backyard. She would leave them small bits of food, scraps of bread or seeds. At first, the crows simply came to eat, but over time, something curious began to happen. In place of the food, she began finding small objects, beads, shiny buttons, pieces of glass, tiny trinkets, left in the exact spot where she'd placed the food. They weren't random. Some were even color-matched to the objects she liked. One even had a small piece of plastic shaped like a heart. Scientists observing similar behavior described this as a form of reciprocal altruism, a way animals show gratitude or maintain social bonds. But from the outside, it looks like friendship. Then there's the incredible case of a shopkeeper named Stuart in Seattle, who had been feeding and caring for a family of crows for years. One day, he noticed something unusual on the ledge outside his shop: 2 small branches intertwined and adorned with corks, leaves, and what looked like carefully placed decorations. It wasn't just debris. It was arranged, thought out. It looked like a gift. When he shared the photo online, many were shocked, not just by the beauty of the object, but by the apparent intention behind it. Stuart was moved to tears. "This isn't just a gift," he said. "This is art." And indeed, when you see the intricate weaving and decoration of the item, it's hard to disagree. Stories like these force us to ask deeper questions. Are crows capable of gratitude, of attachment? Can they appreciate kindness and respond with creativity? In these quiet exchanges between species, something extraordinary is happening. Crows, in their own mysterious way, are teaching us about reciprocity, about empathy, and about the unseen threads that can connect even the most unlikely companions. But beyond these emotional interactions, crows are also astonishing problem solvers. With the rise of urbanization and the spread of technology, crows have learned to navigate the human world in ways that continue to astound scientists. In some cities, they've been observed collecting hard-shelled nuts, walnuts in particular, and flying over to traffic intersections. There they wait for the light to turn red and place the nuts in the path of oncoming cars. When the light turns green, vehicles run over the nuts, cracking the shells. Then, when the light turns red again and traffic stops, the crow calmly walks into the street and retrieves the freshly cracked nut. Think about the layers of understanding this requires: timing, cause and effect, risk assessment, and learning from observation. This isn't rare or accidental behavior. It's systematic. In places like Japan, this method has been studied and documented multiple times. It demonstrates not only intelligence, but a remarkable ability to interact with human systems. Crows, it seems, are watching us more closely than we realize. They don't just survive in human environments, they thrive. Another famous study involved a New Caledonian crow and a simple test: retrieve a small treat from the bottom of a transparent tube. The crow was given a straight piece of wire. At first, it tried without success, but then something incredible happened. The crow took the wire, bent it into a hook using nearby surfaces, and then used the newly fashioned tool to lift the treat out of the tube. This was no random trial and error. It was planned, purposeful. The crow understood what it needed and reshaped its environment to get it. What's more impressive is that crows have no natural hook-making instinct. They had to learn this behavior just like a human child would learn to use a spoon or twist a bottle cap. The intelligence required here rivals that of primates, and in some problem-solving tests, crows have outperformed chimpanzees. Their brains may be small, but their minds are vast. But not all of a crow's intelligence is functional. Sometimes they seem to do things simply for fun. In snowy regions, crows have been seen repeatedly flying to rooftops, grabbing a small object or chunk of ice, and then sliding down like they're on a playground. They repeat the behavior again and again, like children playing on a slide. Scientists struggle to define this behavior in purely survival-based terms. It appears to be amusement for amusement's sake, joy expressed in the language of wings and snow. Their social intelligence is equally profound. In crow communities, if a baby is abandoned or orphaned, it doesn't die alone. The flock steps in. Other adult crows, sometimes unrelated, take turns feeding, grooming, and protecting the chick. It's a powerful example of communal care, something that echoes deeply with human values of solidarity and compassion. And if that's not enough, consider this. Crows can live up to 30 or even 40 years in the wild. During that time, they form long-lasting social bonds. They teach their young not just how to survive, but how to interact with the world around them, including humans. Parents show their offspring who to trust and who to avoid. If a human has treated them kindly, they'll pass that knowledge down. If a human has harmed them, they won't forget. One revealing study used masks to test how crows react to perceived threats. Scientists wore distinctive masks while handling dead crows in a controlled area. The next time those masked individuals walked through the same area, days, even weeks later, crows erupted in alarm. They remembered the face. And not just the individual crow who witnessed it. Others in the community learned from it. They passed the information on. Entire flocks responded with defensive behavior, even though only a few had witnessed the original event. This kind of social transmission, teaching others through observation and memory, was once thought to be exclusive to humans and a few higher mammals. But crows once again are challenging those boundaries. They're not just reacting to threats, they're learning, remembering, and educating their community. Yet, despite all this complexity, we continue to overlook them. Maybe because their black feathers and piercing eyes don't fit our traditional image of beauty, or maybe because they're common, familiar, but within their everyday presence lies a stunning reflection of divine design. Their intelligence, their loyalty, their creativity, all of it speaks of a deeper reality, one where even the humblest creatures carry signs from the Creator. And in moments when they perform acts that resemble ours, burying their dead, mourning together, offering gifts, playing, remembering faces, we are forced to stop and reconsider what truly separates us from them. Is it language, emotion, morality, or are these qualities more widely shared in creation than we ever imagined? Returning again to their mysterious funeral rituals, researchers have documented crows placing small objects, leaves, twigs, shiny items, next to the bodies of deceased crows. Why? No one knows for certain. It's not for nutrition. It's not for protection. It seems symbolic, reverent, reflective of a pattern that exists far beyond human tradition. And perhaps that brings us full circle to the first time a human being ever faced the weight of death, the burial of Abel, the son of Adam, a moment so raw and primal, yet so filled with guidance, a moment where Allah did not send an angel or a prophet to teach the lesson, but a raven, a creature that scratched the earth, burying a body and offering through that simple act a message for all of humanity. From that moment on, the act of burial became a sacred duty, one that we still perform to this day, one that began not with a scholar or a sage, but with a crow. And here we are, centuries later, watching these birds perform similar rituals, marveling at their intelligence, documenting their memories, and wondering how such wisdom exists in wings and feathers. The crow, long misunderstood, has emerged as one of the most intelligent and emotionally complex creatures on earth. It carries with it a legacy shaped by divine guidance and affirmed by scientific discovery. Its story is not just a tale of feathers and instinct, but of purpose, connection, and the timeless echoes of truth.